Hey there folks, Paul here from Aristides Guitars, and in today's pickup demo we're going to be talking about the Fishman Fluence Moderns. So we've got a ceramic bridge and an Alnico neck. They have two voices, which means that you can push and pull our volume knob here, which is something that we typically do for our customers, to split between the voices. As well, we've got a 5-voice switch so that you can get those in-between tones. As for the guitar that we're using, this is an 060BR, which means baritone raw, and it's in my favorite raw finish. It's the bright red finish, and yeah, we got an Evertune, just a single volume knob, 5-voice switch, and it is ready to play. So let's hear some tones. I've got a rhythm tone dialed in right now, and it sounds pretty furious. You'll hear what I mean. So both voices have quite an interestingly different sound. The second voice seems to have a bit more bass, a little bit more push, and it's just aggressive. They're both quite aggressive and clean in the sense of you can really hear the note definition. And I have always personally really liked that about Fishmans. They always have a really great level of note definition. That all being said, they are kind of made for metal, and both voices work in different kind of capacities. In terms of being mix ready, I think that the voice 1 can be really great. In terms of satisfaction in a room, sometimes voice 2 actually is really nice, and it lends itself to feeling a bit more of that speaker move because of that extra kind of bass nudge that it seems to have. And in our guitars, it translates into a very precise, clean, defined kind of tone. So now I'm going to switch to a clean tone. I'll go through both voicings as well as the 5-voice switch, starting with the neck pickup. So like I said, they're definitely made for metal. They can do a nice rolled off kind of clean sound, and personally I think position 4 here is kind of the bee's knees for that. And yeah, I would say that you can get a good clean tone out of it, but it wouldn't be as diverse as necessarily the Fishman Classics, which have a little bit more openness, a bit more spank, and are kind of voiced after different kinds of pickups. That being said, all of that is quite usable. The only thing is that I might reduce a little bit of the gain input when it comes to the full humbucking positions. It's just a little bit loud, especially on the bridge pickup. So now let's move on to the lead tone. So personally, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. I didn't think that it would become such a fat sounding guitar. Usually when it comes to compressed sounding active pickups, you expect a certain kind of mid-range, a certain kind of bite, and a certain attack. But with the Fishman stuff, it's always a little bit of a surprise. I think that's why there's so many of them going out into these guitars that are going out for customers, because it just sounds really good. It's really satisfying, kind of more mix ready than I expected. As well, the dynamic in terms of the picking, you know, sometimes an Evertune can take that away a little bit when it comes to bends and things like that, unless you set it up properly. And this one is set up so that it can really be played quite effortlessly without much fighting when it comes to pitch and bending and vibrato. That being said, the pickups also can take away a layer of that if they're active and compressed. I didn't really feel that, which is really, really nice. So if anything, that's the takeaway from this video is, as much as they might be active, as much as they might be a little compressed, they're giving back a lot more than you might expect from a traditional active pickup. So in my hands right now is an 070 SR in dark teal. We've got a light, rich light board, Fishman Moderns, one single knob here which splits between the voicings of the Fishman Moderns, as well as a multi-scale Evertune and a 5-way switch. I thought this would be a really great control against the baritone so that you folks can hear what the differences are, and you can always go back in the video and compare what this guitar sounds like versus the other one. Let's hear what it sounds like. I'm going to go back to a rhythm tone and go between voice 1 and voice 2. Yeah, super aggressive, super satisfying. I really like the Moderns in a 7-string, I will say. Voice 2, again, a little bit more of that bass, a little bit more oomph, especially in the room with some speakers. I feel the response come back to me. So as much as they are, again, active pickups, I'm really, really enamored with the fact that they breathe so much with the way that you play the guitar. So it's important to pick hard, even with these pickups, not just with passive pickups. So now let's move on to a clean sound and see if these pickups can clean up. I'll be going through all 5 positions as well as switching between the voices. So in terms of the voicings, I actually kind of preferred voice 2 overall. Had a little bit less output, but I felt like I could get more out of the guitar. It just felt a little bit more natural, a bit clearer, a bit more clarity was involved. And that being said, the split positions in voice 1 also worked really well, but yeah, I'm quite impressed. It cleaned up quite nicely. Now moving on to lead, I'm gonna kind of just improvise and flick through the positions. I traditionally use mostly the bridge and the neck pickup for leads. Between that and changing voicings, that's what I'm gonna do right now. So yeah, again, it kind of comes off just like the 6-string variant. It's like a little bit of fatness going on. It really is a surprising pickup. I didn't expect it to be able to do quite that much of a different tone per category. You know, it's definitely a little bit more aggressive than a traditional passive pickup, and I think that the cleans, again, on voice 2 were just such a surprise. But in terms of leads, yeah, it's gonna do the thing. It's gonna definitely do the thing. So what did you think? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe, like, follow us on our social media. We're gonna have more of these pickup demos coming out soon. I've been Paul, and thanks for tuning in.